Okay. Shabbat Shalom. Oh, we are live. You know what we didn't do was
what did we do?
It's not a big deal.
I don't know what we didn't do though.
We didn't do the song.
Oh, the song.
Oh.
All right.
We're gonna do it or not?
We are in Leviticus.
Yeah,
Vayikra. We are continuing on through the book. We're in chapter 17 of Leviticus. 16 verses. Interesting commands that we see here in this 17th chapter that we'll look at and discuss. I want to I guess we might as well read it first. We'll read Leviticus 17, 1 through 16, and then we'll go into discussing it after the fact. So,
what are we on?
Leviticus 17.
17. Let's see.
Leviticus 17. You might want to read it. Just start. Okay.
Leviticus chapter 17. And Yah spake unto Moses, saying, Speak unto Aaron and unto his sons and unto all the children of Israel, and say unto them, This is the thing which Yah have commanded, saying, What man soever there be of the house of Israel that killeth an ox, or a lamb, or a goat in the camp, or that killeth it out of the camp, and bringeth it not unto the door of the tabernacle of the congregation to offer an offering unto Yah before the tabernacle of Yah, blood shall be imputed unto that man. He that shed blood, and that men shall be cut off from among his people, to the end that the children of Israel may bring their sacrifices which they offer in an open field, even that they may bring them unto Yah, unto the door of the tabernacle of the congregation, unto the priests, and offer them for peace offerings unto Yah. And the priest shall sprinkle the blood upon the altar of Yah at the door of the tabernacle of the congregation, and burn the fat for sweet savor unto Yah. And they shall no more offer their sacrifices unto devils, after whom they have gone a whoring. This shall be a statute forever unto them throughout the generations. And thou shalt say unto them, Whatsoever man there be of the house of Israel, or of the strangers which sojourn among you, that offereth a burnt offering or sacrifice, and bringeth it not unto the door of the tabernacle of the congregation to offer it unto Yah, even that man shall be cut off from among his people. And whatsoever man there be in the house of Israel, or of the strangers that sojourn among you, that eateth any manner of blood, and will even set my face against that soul that eateth blood, and I will cut him off from among his people. For the life of the flesh is in the blood, and I have given it to you upon the altar to make an atonement for your souls. For it is the blood that maketh an atonement for the soul. Therefore I said unto the children of Israel, no soul you shall eat. No soul you shall eat blood, neither shall any stranger that sojourneth among you eat blood. And whatsoever man there be of the children of Israel, or of the strangers that sojourn among you, which hunteth and catcheth any beast or fowl, that they may be eaten, he shall even pour out the blood thereof, and cover it with dust. For it is the life of all flesh. The blood of it is for the life thereof. Therefore I said unto the children of Israel, you shall eat the blood in no manner of flesh. For the life of all flesh is in the blood thereof. Whosoever eateth it shall be cut off. And every soul that eateth that which died of itself, or that which was torn by beasts, whether it be by your own country, or a stranger, he shall both wash his clothes and bathe himself in water, and be unclean until evening. Then shall he be clean. But if he wash them not, nor bathe his flesh, then he shall bear his iniquity.
Okay. Very good. So, when we look at this chapter here, it seems like it kind of builds on itself as it goes. When it begins to talking about slaughtering animals, and it goes into where this should be done. And then by the time it gets down to verse 5, I guess it puts a context on the slaughtering. Let's just talk about the slaughtering first. When we look at this word, where it says in verse 3, if any man from the house of Israel who, for this version I have says, slays a bull or a lamb or a goat in the camp, or slays it outside the camp. If he slays it in the camp or slays it outside the camp. See, King James says kills, which is like super general. Even the word slaughter really is just general. Word slaughter, kill, slay. This word, which is Yishchat, which means to slaughter, to kill. That's the word we use. To slaughter, kill, or to slay. So when you're first reading it, it just seems as if if you go and get an animal and kill it, you gotta bring it to the tent of meetings. It seems like when you're looking at it, right? Yeah. Just based on verse 3, what man soever there be of the house of Israel, any Israelite that kills an ox or a lamb or a goat, if he does it in the camp or he does it outside of the camp, and brings it not unto the door of the tabernacle of the congregation to offer an offering unto Yahweh before the tabernacle of Yahweh, blood shall be imputed unto that man. So if I just read these 4 verses here, it seems as if anything that I kill, I got to bring to the tabernacle. Don't it seem like it's saying that?
Yeah, that's interesting. And I'm like, hey, you say you want some steak tonight, and you gotta go. It's a whole process. You just can't get killing a cow or nothing and just eat steak. You gotta according to this.
That's what it seemed like it's saying, don't it?
Yes, it's reversing. You got to go make an offering first.
That blood, it says, the blood shall be imputed unto the man. He has shed blood, and the man shall be cut off from among Israel. So if you out hunting, or if you
hunting is it hunting? Like it wouldn't count for a deer.
Why not?
Because you don't sacrifice it.
Oh, you just saying a deer because it's not a.
It's not a sacrificial animal.
Well, I
It's
guess
just
you.
a clean.
I guess you wouldn't kill an ox or a lamb or a goat hunting. I just said
because
they're kind of domestic animals.
you wouldn't go hunting for it.
No.
Well,
But the
you
point
could
is,
go hunting for a goat in those countries where goats just walk around in the streets.
yeah, there are probably somebody's goats run away. All I'm saying is that in the camp or out of the camp. So if you're home or if you're not home, if you're home or if you're not home, it says you're supposed to bring that thing home to be sacrificed. And if you don't do it, you're cut off. Which is really serious. Like it's super serious.
You get cut off from your people.
You're done. Like, well, let's continue looking at this. So before we talk about cut off, so the word shachat, like as I said, it means to slaughter, to kill, to slay. The verse 3, it probably says kill and then slaughter. My version says slay, I think. New American Standard says what?
Slaughter.
Slaughter. But the thing about it is, now this is what we have to notice when we look at this. When we look at this word, if you look at this word, shachat, is used many times in the Torah, many times in the Bible, but in the Torah specifically, if you just randomly choose a place where this word is, just totally here. Let's just do an experiment.
Experiment.
Yeah, this is an experiment. This word is shachat. I just want to test this experiment and see. I'm going to test it. See. So, this word is in the Old Testament 81 times. So if we just randomly choose a place where this word is, let's see what the context of it is. So I'm just randomly choosing. I see it's in Leviticus 9 also. And he brought the people's offering and took the goat, which was the sin offering for the people, and slew it. So that's our word there, slew. And made it a sin offering like the first one. Okay. Let's do it again. And just do it one time. That was Leviticus. Let me find one that's in Numbers. Just randomly chose Numbers as soon as I saw Numbers. And you shall give it to Eleazar the priest, and he shall bring it outside the camp and shall slay it before him. I don't know what the verses before that, but it seems as if it's kind of a sacrificial kind of thing. Let's check the context.
So this what is it? The shachat is more like towards sacrificial.
Oh, Numbers 19 is referring to the red heifer. Okay, so that's a sacrificial thing. So that was Numbers Exodus. Let's see if there's an Exodus one here. This is the first Exodus one I saw. And you shall slay the ram and take some of his blood and put it on the tip of your finger, the tip of your right ear, Aaron, the tip of your right ears of the sons, and the thumb and the right hand, so on and so forth. So when we look at this word here and the context, even though it is a general word, it's most of the time used in regards to making a sacrifice, not just random killing. Not like the thing that you brought up in terms of, I want some steak today. And so if I kill the animal, I got to take the animal back to the temple to give an offering.
Can I add something?
Yeah.
Real quick? You were going through all of the ones where it shows Yishchat.
Yeah.
And Exodus 34 and 25
What's that
actually
say?
uses the word offer.
Oh,
So it was thou shalt not offer.
What is that, 34?
but that's the same word.
Yeah, it's the same word.
Yeah.
What is it?
34 and 25. It says, thou shalt not offer the blood of my sacrifice
Yeah.
with leaven, neither shall the sacrifice of the feast of the Passover be left until the morning.
Right.
But the word offer, so it kind of.
So it's talking about this thing that you killed, you sacrificed,
Oh, mine's literally.
you use as an offering.
So,
Yeah,
so that means that it is lawful to kill an animal to eat it then without taking it to the temple.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I'm saying that this word,
Some people don't eat meat because they can't take the animal.
right. Well, this is what I'm saying. That when we look at this, now, as I said, first started off saying this chapter kind of builds on itself. Like if we keep on going in the context, if we even just read the next verse, it helps us to understand what is going on here. But I'm just saying, if we just start off and stop at 4, it kind of causes us to. We could come to that conclusion and say, I need to just be a vegetarian because I can't take my food if I kill it. I can't take it to the temple.
And people are vegetarians for that reason.
Well,
remember we met that one guy at the feast when I think we was out Ligonier camping conference.
I don't recall, but I believe you what you're saying. I think that is true. I just don't remember. Okay, so I'm saying that even though this word is kind of like a general word, when we look in the context of where it's mostly used.
But did Israel at that time, do you know if they, I mean, obviously the children of Israel in the wilderness wasn't killing their animals because they was hungry and they had all this cattle they brought out of Egypt. Meanwhile, they could have just killed one of them cows or whatever they had and ate it.
Well, they did make offerings, so we have to say that they did have animals.
A lot of animals.
And there was a thing where they was talking about how hungry they was.
Yeah, and they had animals they could have eaten.
I'm getting that it's sacrificial purposes. Because if we, like, the first time it shows up is in Genesis 22 and 10.
The word, you mean?
Yeah. This word, Genesis 22 and 10, and it's talking about Abraham about to slay Isaac. And we know he was going to be sacrificed.
Mm-hmm.
And so what I'm kind of thinking is,
that is 22 said it stretched out his hand and took the knife to slay his son. Yeah.
And we know it was supposed to be for sacrificial purposes. So I'm thinking this word is going into, we ain't supposed to be sacrificing to nothing, to no other entity but the Most High. Because because it doesn't really mention if you're doing it to eat. At least like where we're at, we go further, might get some more. But what I gather right now from this word is not just to kill something, but the more than kill it, more like, you know, make a ceremony out of it, or and it not be going to the tabernacle the proper way, you know.
Yeah,
That's kind of how.
yeah, yeah. So just from looking at the word, we can get that idea of it's not just about, it's not a prohibition of killing animals in or out of the camp just for whatever purposes, like for to eat. Is dealing with the idea of sacrifice. It's dealing with the idea of making a offering, whether it be to Yahweh or otherwise. Yahweh don't want an offering to his own self that don't come to the altar.
Because this says, the scripture talks about, well, I don't know if it says, oh yeah, it says anything that touches the altar is holy. You could think about that as anything has to be holy to touch the altar, but anything that touches the altar is also made holy because it's offered into Yahweh.
What exact verse is that? You bring that up a lot.
Because it's in the Bible.
I'm just wondering what exact verse.
Hold on, I'll tell you where it is.
You mentioned that. Like that should go to thing. Okay.
That is I don't know, this is Exodus 29 verse 37. I'm not sure if that's the verse. I think it's where it talks about everything being offered with
29
salt.
what?
29 verse 37. It says, for 7 days you shall make atonement for the altar and consecrate it. Then the altar shall be most holy, and whatever touches the altar shall be holy.
So is it already holy, or is it
The altar is holy, and whatever touches the altar shall be holy. And I think some different translations read it a little bit different.
All right, we could come back to that because I think that could be debatable.
I enjoy my interpretation of Exodus 29, verse 37. I do use it a lot.
All right, take note of that verse so we can revisit that. Okay, so so again, this word, even though the word is this word that means slaughter, kill, slay, the idea also is in the context of an offering brought. So, and the punishment for doing this thing is being cut off. Cut off. When we think about the idea of being cut off, that word is karat, which means to cut off, to cut down, to destroy, consume. From the idea of cutting flesh and passing through the pieces, like in terms of a covenant that's made, like when Abraham made the covenant with Yahweh and cut the birds in half,
and he had to walk through them.
Yeah. So when we think about this idea of being cut off, it can be dead. I'm saying that it's either dead or as good as dead.
When you get cut off?
Yeah.
If you get disfellowship?
Yeah. is cut off, cut down, or destroyed. Right? So when we look at,
but that would mean you would die though.
Well,
right?
it could be dying. One example that makes it seem like it's dying is Exodus 31:14.
It was just everywhere.
Thirty-one 14 says, "And you shall guard the Shabbat, for it is set apart to you. Everyone who profanes it shall certainly be put to death." It says, "Put to death." That's not the word. The word comes later. "For anyone who works on it, that being shall be cut off from among his people." That's the word. You're, huh?
Is that verse 15?
No, that's all 14.
Okay, so it shall be cut off from among his people.
But it just got finished saying that if you profane it, you'll be put to death.
It says that in verse 15. Yeah. Okay, so I see in 14 it says put to death and cut off from among the people.
Right. So is that telling you two things or one thing? You know what I mean? It's telling you that you'll be put to death. But if you're put to death, you're cut off from among your people, ain't you?
That's the means of being cut off. That's the means of being cut off.
So in verse 14,
yeah,
it says, "We should keep the Sabbath thereof, for it is holy unto you. Everyone that defiles shall surely be put." So it's saying if you defile it, you'll be put to death. But if you work, any soul that works, it'll be cut off.
Oh, so you saying that's two things?
Yeah. Because if you defiling it, we gotta look at that word defile, but they
Profaning it.
profaning it.
I guess the argument could be made that if you're working on it, you're profaning it, but I mean, they're clearly not the same word. They're clearly not the same word.
You can profane it in other ways than just working.
Like, say, for instance, the person that was picking up sticks on the Shabbat.
He was working.
He was picking up sticks, which was kind of like working, but he was killed though, right?
He was stoned.
So he was cut off from among his people. So I guess it's kind of,
Yeah. We ain't supposed to do nothing on that. Ain't no kind of work.
Picking up those little magnets in there.
They probably seen that as yard work or
Sit
something.
still. Don't move. Don't move.
okay, so the idea is that cut off very well could be cut off from life itself.
Yeah.
But if you're cut off from among your people, you might as well have been dead anyway, because you're not dealing with.
Yeah.
You're not dealing with Yahweh anymore.
Yes.
Like if he's the source of life and you get cut off from him, then you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you're cut off from life.
Okay, so when we look down at verse 7, look at verse 7 back in Leviticus chapter 17, where it says, "And they shall no more offer their sacrifices unto devils, after whom they have gone a whoring. This shall be a statute forever unto them throughout the generation." Now, once it gets to 7, now it seems as if it's connecting it to this false worship and this sacrificing that you're doing unto things that's not Yahweh.
Yeah.
Where verse 7, it seems, brings it out of the general in terms of, I just seen a cow, my buddy crossed the camp, got a cow for me to eat, and I kill it and eat it. It don't got nothing to do with taking it to the altar first. It got to do with the fact that when we look at this word, not only when we look at this word, is it most of the time connected to sacrificing, but now in verse 7, when we're getting this whole thing brought to us in the first place, it says, "Thou shalt no more offer sacrifices unto devils, after whom they have gone a whoring," as if this was an issue that was going on.
What they were sacrificing to goat demons and all that stuff.
Goat demons. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we gotta think too. Back in the ancient times, in all different civilizations, from Babylon, Egypt, they worship all kind of beasts and made all these beast idols and all this stuff. So I'm thinking that anytime they killed an animal, it was some kind of ritual involved. I can't see them like in the ancient times just killing a goat. We just dinner, cut it, and then we eat, or prepare it. It's like always a ritual.
They have rituals now, even like the Muslims have their rituals and the Jews have their rituals too.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you know what I mean? Like, don't the Muslim people, don't they say a blessing to Allah or whatever before they the halal meat?
Yeah, I
to make Allah, to pray over it.
They gotta pray
Yeah.
over it. They can't just kill the thing.
Yeah, I saw that thing. It was pretty amazing how they was doing this thing where it was talking about humanely killing animals, and it happened to be this guy who was like this Islamic guy, and he was like on like a graded floor with like holes in it with drains and stuff. So he would have the cow lay down. I mean, these was lambs, I think, or goats or something. And they would lay down, and he would sit there and talk to it. And he would take the goat's ears, like cover up his eyes with the ear, and lay it down, and then but he would be whispering in his ear these. He said that he was doing it because I don't. Siri.
You call Siri?
He said that what he was doing was saying these prayers to the goat, and then as he was doing it, he would take his little knife and slice the neck, and let the blood go out. So but that's how they do that halal meat.
They pray over it first.
Well, around one of our services for Passover, usually we'll get live lamb, and then we have to do it in the middle of New York, so you can't go out in the field or nothing. But
you do in a city
place, they got lambs like right. Everything's in New York. You can find lambs in a warehouse, but it's like we were shocked. But they, they pick. I think they pick it from the farm and then they bring it in or something like that, because that'd be 1 year and all that stuff. And then, because I sacrificed one before, and you go into the pen, you talk to it, like they calm it down and all that, and like same thing. You grade it, huh?
You sacrifice.
Yeah.
You should count it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's on
Or
video.
you gotta,
Yeah, I got the it was on video. Actually,
English and Hebrew together.
Let me make sure I'm understanding your English right. Yishchat?
Yeah. And so we sit they put it on the little slaughter table, and I sat with it and held it down, and we did a prayer over it, killed it, and then we gotta hold it down so the legs won't start kicking and stuff, going crazy. And we hold it until all the blood drains and the lights gone, and they tell us to walk the board and stuff off of it and finish the meat.
For Passover.
Mm-hmm.
You put it in the ground. Okay.
No, we went right. We split it up between brothers, and they to cook their portion because nobody had it.
Okay, so my question is now: was you supposed to be doing that?
I don't read this. You got it.
That's my question.
Why is that why you said Yishchat in it?
I'm just saying because that's
Oh,
the
my
word he used. He
goodness.
say sacrifice.
I know, right?
That's what you said. You said you Yishchat it. You was outside.
I can't say Chicago yet because it ain't we ain't got no priest and tapes no altar, so we just they say kill us, so I can't.
You gotta find the right Hebrew.
We killed it in the English sense. We killed it.
Ours was killed too. Our land was killed too. It didn't get Yishchat.
Yeah, it just got killed.
Yeah.
But our land didn't get Yishchat. It just got killed and then we ate it. So I gotta go to this. I gotta go to
Low def.
Low def. Oh, wait. Yeah, so that's the thing. Like, we had this thing, going on with the prisoners, and they
prisoners.
They want to have their Passover and they want to have lamb. And I understand the whole thing with it, but
you mean wanting lamb? You understand?
Yeah, wanting to have lamb.
Because we eat lamb.
Because we do eat lamb, but like we're not like going and sacrificing Passover lamb. Like we're not Yishchatting the lamb. We're just eating lamb as part of our meal that we eat on Passover.
Right.
But it's not exactly like it's not the Passover lamb. We're just doing something that kind of commemorates what was done, without it being that. Because we can't do it because we can't do all of the parts that are incorporated in it.
Now the people I know who actually say they sacrifice, they literally say they do sacrifice. They don't just eat the lamb, but they say they sacrifice the lamb.
I don't.
They'll say this is all true except for Passover. Except for the Passover sacrifice. But I'm not really sure why. Because everybody came up to Jerusalem for Passover. So if you came up to Jerusalem for Passover, then you would assume you got your lamb, took it to the temple.
Yeah.
But I'm not really sure why they say they can do this. They can do all the sacrifices. They say they can't do any sacrifice except for Passover and exile.
This here is pointing towards the idea of if you're sacrificing a thing, you need to bring it unto Yahweh. If you're saying that's what it is.
Yeah.
But again, not to get too far off track, looking at verse 7 is dealing with this this thing that they were doing where their practices was being connected to offering these sacrifices unto devils. Right. So the word sa'ir, which means shaggy or the he-goat, was translated as devils. Is literally this, this goat demon.
Because mine actually translates as sacrifices to the goat demon.
Yeah.
So really?
So if we think about what
that word 8163.
Yeah. If we hold on, let me look at this real quick. Let's see if I have hold on a second.
I thought you was playing.
Oh no!
the goat.
The word is goat. The goat demon. Yeah.
Oh wow.
Are you looking for Esau?
No, I was looking for a picture that I had, but I can't remember where it is.
What's the picture of it?
Well, if I just say it, it's gonna ruin it.
You refer to a demon possessed
If I
goat.
just say it, it's gonna ruin it. Okay, yeah, there it is. Okay, so let's do this here. Oh yeah.
Oh man, that's a terrible picture.
Wait.
But that's the picture. That's it. Okay.
I'll turn my laptop around.
Okay. Hey, you can just sit down. Okay. So when we think about this idea of goat demons, right? These are things that have been around for centuries. But here's a perfect example of a goat demon, where you're thinking about a man and a goat mixed together, right? The Baphomet really is like a man and a woman, like a hermaphrodite with a goat head. It's the Baphomet.
Yeah. I thought she was gonna show me Black Pete. Sparkling Pete.
What was it?
But again, this is a thing that's been going on since way back when. Way back in Egypt, they had these practices of offering sacrifices to goat demons. And of course, we see that Israel coming out of Egypt still had a lot of these pagan practices, even still connected to things that they were doing. So much so that we have here a command given by Yahweh saying, that they need to not be doing these things.
I bring it.
Okay.
And the punishment for doing so was again being cut off. So when we think about this, Yahweh specifically speaking of right there, these people are following Yahweh. They're following Yahweh. They're following Yahweh, but they're following Yahweh with these ways and customs that are a mixture. They're like a blend of things, and they're, ascribing these things unto Yahweh. We look at the times that we're in, even just right now, when, we're in this specific season where, we have this blend of things that are directed towards Yeshua, but with all of these foreign customs. I've come across people who they don't want to, for whatever reason, they talk against all of the different origins that they have with with Christmas, for instance, and try to make it seem as if these things aren't really connected to pagan worship. And I say, I don't see it like that. It seems as if their pagan customs are, incorporated in every single part of what we know of as Christmas, right? But even if we say that that's not the case. What is true is these are not the ways that Yahweh prescribed for his people to worship him, to commemorate him in any way. So even if we was to say that, for instance, Christmas, even if we was to say that Christmas is not pagan, which I would say that it is pagan, but even if we was to say that it wasn't, it don't talk about serving Yahweh that way in the scriptures.
Right.
And even if those ways aren't actual practices that people did, if they look like it, it seems as if that's good enough to not do it because it looks like this other thing, right? So when we look how at the beginning where it's just talking about just killing an ox or a lamb or a goat, where it could be that, you know, they took the lamb or the ox or the goat and they took it to a place and they said 5 things. And when you say those 5 things, you're honoring the goat demon.
Right.
So Yahweh saying, let's just alleviate anything that's even like that. If you're slaughtering this animal, slaughtering it, bring it to the altar.
Let it be made whole.
Yeah. So again, it seems as if there is issues going on because it says no more offer these sacrifices unto the devils, unto the goat demons, after whom they have gone on.
Mm-hmm.
So they were doing it. They've been doing it.
And it also says this is a permanent statute.
Forever. Throughout their generations.
Mm-hmm.
Forever.
And you know what?
Christ is no longer.
If we think about it, like say Thanksgiving, Christmas, these days come up, and a lot of times they got their beasts that they serve, whether it be a turkey or quote ham, and what they do, pray over it. You know, I guess that's kind of a form of acknowledging the sacrifice for this food and what they pray, what they giving it for. You know, it's not to y'all, it's not, you know. Yeah, so it's like we back to doing it today.
Mm-hmm.
Or, you know, built on that paganism.
Yeah, so we have to really think about these things and look at the things that we do and see if we're doing this. You know, when we get into these things, right? When we telling people about these things, right? If you care about what the scriptures actually says, you can look at Leviticus chapter 17 and see that Yahweh don't want you honoring him in a way that these goat demons are honored, or any demon for that matter. He's specifically speaking about these devils, these goat demons here, but I don't see why, you know, it has to be limited to that. Because the idea is that Yahweh doesn't want the mixture. He doesn't want this kind of overflow of, you know, joining all of these different ways and customs together with his ways. He wants for us to be doing something just the way he has prescribed it, and not with these added things in it. And that goes for the house of Israel or of those that are among Israel, the strangers which sojourn among you. right? Again, it's dealing with all those who are in Israel, whether you're natural born or otherwise.
Yeah, and I mean, looking at verse 7, like, it clearly was a problem. Because it says, and they shall no more, meaning they was doing it,
Yeah.
offer their sacrifice unto them after you have gone a whoring. So it's like, it's an issue that it had to be specifically written down.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. And so again, there were people that was round about where they were, even at this time. And part of what they was doing was honoring these goat demons in these desolate places. They was in the desert, right? They was in the desert. They would honor this goat demon in desolate places. So they're doing everything that's already, just by virtue of them just being in the wilderness. They're halfway there with the thing in the first place. And again, these were customs that were in Egypt. These were customs that were in surrounding areas to where they came from. So you're dealing with a people coming out of this pagan society with people. I mean, you can't really differentiate after hundreds of years those that were the mixed multitude in Israel. After hundreds of years, they had the same thought processes, right? If the Israelites didn't have their own culture because they was enslaved for hundreds of years, right? So we can't say that it was just because of the influence of the mixed multitudes. They had already been influenced at that time.
I was thinking about that because I'm like, they had to unlearn a lot of stuff. They had to.
Yeah,
that's what this is part of that process.
Yeah, custom. It was like, and so things that we was ingrained in us to be normal, whatever, had to be accentuated. Like with this verse, it's like, don't do it no more. So you shall no more do it. So it's like.
So I mean, we can look at that. And it's relevant for us right now, even just right now. As of where we dealing with generations of enslavement, of our minds, and being disconnected from the culture that's associated with the people of Yahweh, Israel. Generations, right? So
bring him here.
As you said, there's a lot of unlearning. There's a lot of unlearning that must be done. And we have to remember that these things are important to y'all. Even still, he said, even unto them throughout their generations, forever. Let me see what that is. Leviticus 17. That's 7. Statute forever. Olam. Forever.
You guys got Olam.
Forever.
Daddy.
Olam. Time indefinite. Time without end. Olam. Forever. So there's not a knowable endpoint to this command.
You're just not gonna do it. That's all.
Yeah, it's forever. So again, this is something that we can look at. This is applicable for us in terms of we have to be able to follow after Yahweh the way he says for us to follow after him, and not the way that is unto these devils. That sounds funny. Goat demons. Okay. And every man, even that man, shall be cut off from among his people, the one who does it. Right? Okay, so verse 10. Verse 10. Okay, so now we're building on the command is building on itself, because if you're sacrificing, right? If you're sacrificing, you have this idea of this. You're sacrificing it by letting the blood out of the thing. Right? That's how you sacrifice it to begin with. You let the blood out. So verse 10 says, "And whatever man there be of the house of Israel, or of the strangers that sojourn among you, that eats any manner of blood, I will even set my face against that soul that eats blood, and will cut him off from among the people." So now we're dealing with, what's being done with the sacrifice, the eating of this blood. Well, first of all, without talking about the eating of the blood, let's just look at the severity of this thing, where it says, "I will set my face against that soul." So we can look at that in two ways. You can look at that in the fact that if Yahweh's setting his face against you, or it could be as him turning away from you. It could be him turning away from you, forgetting about you, not dealing with you. He already said that you were going to be cut off, right? So it's easy to think about the idea of Yahweh turning his face from you if you're cut off from among the people. But the other thing, the opposite, I think, can also be true in terms of him actually looking at you. He's looking at you. He sees what you're doing, right? I see sometimes with his
set my face against that person.
Right. So, say for instance, I see little Hiskey in Africa over there, and they arguing with each other, going back and forth. I might set my face against little Hiskey, right? And he sees that I done did it, right? And then he just he feels the guiltiness. Right? He feels that he's like doing something that he shouldn't be doing. I set my face against it. Right? If I'm not paying no attention, right? They just carry on.
Yeah.
They just do what they doing. If they feel like they getting away with something, nobody sees what they doing. They just do it, right? But once you set your face against them, right? Once you hone in on what they doing, right? It's almost as if it's judgment against, right?
Mm-hmm.
Children are always easier. Sinners.
That's right. To set, because when you look at this, against that soul is really just dealing with the soul. It's really dealing with setting the face and the soul. Natan, Hanim, and Nafesh. The idea of against is put in there just to kind of give you the kind of, make the sentence fuller. But in the Hebrew, you have set, which is Natan. So when you look at Natan in the Hebrew, it means to give, to put, to make, to add, to apply, to appoint, to ascribe, right? All of those things cause me to think about Yahweh looking, right? He knows what's going on. direct charge, if he directs his face to you, right? If he commits or considers his face to you, right? You're not getting away with it, right? It's something that you're not getting away with anymore. Not as if, not like he's dealing with you because he's looking at you. Not like you're good with him because he's looking at you. But you're not getting away with this thing that you could potentially be doing secretly. Drinking the blood. Like I seen how you was over there drinking the blood. I seen you.
Right.
Nobody else didn't see you, but I could set my face against you and know that that's what you was doing. Right? He sees you.
So
right?
It doesn't say like turn his face.
It don't
away.
say turn. It
It's
says
just-
set. Natan. It says Natan, Panim, Nefesh. Natan is set, or appoint, or apply, or ascribe. He's dealing with. His face is dealing with your soul.
So it really isn't like him just looking the other way.
Looking the other way, it's like if I'm looking the other way, I'm not paying attention to Hizky. I don't know what he's doing.
It's like a judgment.
Yeah. Shabbat shalom. I'm saying it's all the way that it's judgment. He's set his face on you. You're not secretly eating the blood no more. Now I see you eating that blood, and now you're gonna get browbeaten by the Most High. Browbeat, right? If I'm browbeating you, I don't really even gotta say nothing. You know that I'm displeased. You know that there's displeasure involved if I'm looking at you, especially while you eating that blood. You doing that thing that you're not supposed to be doing in the first place. Right? Browbeating is like,
Don't sit there.
Like this.
That chair is broke.
I mean, you might not fall out of it, but.
It's a slight chance. It could happen.
The brown beat like that. Just looking at you.
Well, yeah, but it's kind of like that, but not really. Like,
Verbal.
It's kind of non-verbal. If I'm browbeating you, it's kind of like mad. Like I couldn't say mad dog.
Mean mugging.
It's mean mugging. It's browbeating.
I thought browbeating was like.
Right, because it's your brow, right? It's just kind of like I can't even do it because I'm feeling not that serious right now. It's just a look, right? It's just dealing with. So the idea is, if we're saying that Yahweh says, I will set my face against the soul, the person who eats blood, and will cut him off from among his people. So he's going to notice the sin. He's going to see what you're doing. He's going to look at you, and you're going to see that he's looking at you. You know it. And you're going to feel the judgment. You know that it's happening. You're not getting away with the sin. Your sin has been exposed. And you're cut off.
I have a question. So we're eating a rare bloody steak.
Cut off.
Oh,
But
game over.
Would that be, you know?
Yeah, we ain't supposed to be eating no rare bloody steak.
no blood.
You ain't supposed to be eating no rare bloody steak. That mother's supposed to be cooked. Blood supposed to be out. So it's like I feel like it's multi-dimensional. Because first of all, you were supposed to go. Like if we're looking at this, first of all, you were supposed to. By the time we get to the blood part, because it could be about not eating, not cooking the food all the way, but it could really be about just like eating blood.
Well, look at what they do today with these rituals. They be drinking blood, and you hear about it rather, but yeah.
Right. So even still, it's kind of like I'm saying, where it's really just building off these other things, where we could think about it in terms of a rare steak. But we just got finished looking at the fact that these animals weren't being killed. It wasn't like they were just being killed out in the woods, but they was being killed out in the woods unto these goat demons. Right, and Yahweh bringing his people away from these pagan practices. I'm saying that it's not only just about, I think that could be included in it in terms of, eating raw meat. But maybe the practice of eating raw meat really just came about because of these people like eating blood. You know what I mean? Maybe a softer way to eat blood instead of just drinking it is just, let me just get a bloody steak. You know what I mean? Where maybe it's, I don't know where the idea of eating this raw meat even comes from, but I can easily see a connection between, if I want to soften this thing, which is kind of just like, let me just get this big cup of blood. Maybe it's easier if I eat it with some meat. You know what I mean?
Well, I have been doing a little bit of studying, and basically they said that until Europeans came on the scene, like eating like raw meat and eating heavy diets wasn't really even in the picture. And so they said, like historians that say, when the European popped on the scene, that basically they had strange diets. They ate like raw meat and flesh and drank blood. And so they said there's a disease that certain blood types have, that where drinking blood actually helps their system, because it comes from what's his name, Dracula. What was his real name? Vladimir. So Vladimir drank blood due to a condition he had.
Are you talking about the folklore that turned into like Count Dracula?
Yes, but it's actually
vampire.
Yeah, he didn't have teeth and blood. Yeah. But he did actually drink blood.
Yeah.
And it was due to a condition that he had. And they say that a lot of your royalty, your royals, come from that bloodline. Yep. Yeah, they say Queen of England and all of them.
Great blood.
They even say Barack Obama is in that bloodline.
Drink the blood.
No, not drink the blood. They said they're in the bloodline. That Vladimir.
Oh, that he
bloodline.
needed.
Yeah.
I was gonna say that. Well, I guess I watch, or used to, whenever we had cable, I used to watch. Was it Andrew Zimmerman or whatever, and he would go to different places,
and they
eat
had
crazy
a lot of stuff.
Yeah, like they was eating like they probably didn't have as many nutrients like in the northern places, and that might be why they just was drinking.
Yeah,
blood.
I mean they be cooking their food in blood.
They blood sausage,
blood,
and it would be a lot of blood they would eat
would you
in their
watch
diet.
When you research what they're doing in Caucasus Mountains and how they was eating,
there's eating blood, but the isn't it all of the toxins in your body is in your blood, right? And
Well, your
then
blood
fat
pushes it around to different places. Yeah.
So
if you everything in your body, well, we see where it talks about in the next verse, for the life of the flesh is in the blood. The blood is really the life force for your flesh, your physical body. Everything that's in your body gets around where it needs to get around because it travels in your blood. You take in, when you breathe in oxygen, that stuff gets into your blood cells and carries it all over your body. Your blood gets everything in your body. It gets there by your blood. So I could see where somebody would sit up there and understand, it don't take that much of a scientific knowledge to understand the importance of the liquid that's inside of it. But so maybe a primitive mind says, well, if I just take this cow's blood,
I could get
and take it in.
Right.
You know what I mean? And again, you always put in this prohibition here because these people was doing these things. These are the customs that these people were doing. Y'all always saying, wait, this blood, Yahweh set the blood apart and uses it as a means of atonement. He says in verse 11, for the life of the flesh is in the blood, and I have given it to you, and I have given it to you upon the altar to make an atonement for your souls, for it is the blood that makes an atonement for the soul. So Yahweh's taking this animal blood, and he's saying basically animal blood. I'm setting this stuff apart, you know, certain animals that are the ones that I prescribe to you. I'm setting this thing apart and saying that this thing is used as a means of atonement. So one reason why this blood eating prohibition is even put in place is because Yahweh's saying this blood is supposed to be used for making atonement. So that don't mean you save a little bit and drink it, or you don't let it all pour out. Like I said, let it pour out into the dirt and cover it up. But if you're going to do anything with this blood, you're supposed to be using it for atonement purposes, which again would be, you know, bringing it to the altar. So he's giving us instructions as to what we're supposed to be doing with the blood.
Pour it out. Cover it up.
And so if he's giving you the purpose, regardless of what it signifies or what you're doing with it in terms of it, you know, pagan practices, whatever, what have you, if he's saying that this blood is for this, as soon as you drinking it, you're not honoring that thing that he said that the blood is for in the first place. For one. So one thing that we can look at this and see about the idea of eating blood is that he says that he set blood apart as an atonement for your souls.
And this is because I was just looking at this here. It says in verse 13, hunting. So it's not even just talking about the temple sacrifice animals, but it's talking about even like a deer. Like you can't just go and shoot it or whatever. I don't know if they didn't have guns back then, but you can't just go and kill a deer and then eat its blood. It's like any animal.
Right. He opens it up.
I keep saying deer. I don't know what other people. What are other animals that people?
I don't know. There's not
Bison.
many. There's not many animals outside of these domesticated animals that we would even be eating.
Some bison, I guess.
So tell me this. So you know how you buy a chicken, right? Chicken. And then
you have chicken in there.
You eat the chicken, and it still got the veins in it. Mm-hmm. And them veins be dark. Mm-hmm. And there's probably blood in them veins. Mm-hmm. But once you cook it, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. Is that still eating blood, or you know what I'm saying?
If you was to take a animal and hang it upside down, cut the head off, that blood's gonna pump out. All of it, you think? It's gonna pump out more. That's what I'm getting at. Yeah. Most of it's gonna pump out and drip out. But you can't really get all of it out. So that's why when you get, like, say, if you get kosher chicken, it's extra salty because they pack it in salt, which draws
more blood out.
The blood out.
Oh, okay.
So it's going that extra.
Have all the blood.
Yeah, even that is still.
Because I buy kosher meat.
You can't really get it all
in
out
there right now, but
you can't really just get it. It
You
won't
can't
just
get
pour
all the
out.
blood out before you cook it. You gotta. That's why you gotta cook it. Because when you cook it, then the blood gets kind of cooked out of it.
I always soak my meat though.
And salt.
Then you see a lot of blood dissipated in them.
It's not all the blood.
You can get more out. You can get more
You can get a
out.
lot of blood
I mean,
out.
I'm
You can't
thinking
get it
about-
all.
I don't know how you get it
out.
all out.
You can't get it all out. Is all I'm saying.
They'll drain it. You could bring it home and soak it. You could get more out. I'm just saying, I don't know how you get it all out.
I'm thinking of chicken.
That's what I'm thinking
red
about,
meat,
chicken.
red meat might be harder, but chicken's not too hard.
Well, getting it all out. Unless you, I mean,
If you still,
if you're getting the chicken with the bones in it,
But
you know what I
if you
mean?
get boneless chicken, it don't have any blood.
The veins ain't there.
Boneless
You
chicken
get-
don't have any veins. Maybe we should just eat boneless chicken.
No, it has veins stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's still a vein.
I only got veins.
Yeah.
Blood
You got
doesn't
some
get all
chicken
through
breasts. If you get chicken breasts, it don't got them little veins.
It's like
nah,
the
it-
leg.
You might find like one or two in like if you, yeah, you'll find one. It's in there.
It's closer to the bone.
Yeah, you'll find one.
Yeah, you'll find one.
You'll
won't
find one.
many. You
I'm
won't
not
find
saying you.
many.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, you'll find one. I'm saying that like as far as like, cause I buy like kosher meat from the store, and all I'm saying is that it's not like when you buy kosher meat. There's no blood in it at all. There's
Right.
still blood in it. It's just not as much blood.
It's gonna
My
be
point.
less.
My point
It's
is
just not.
I don't think you can get it all out.
right, and my point is that
But you should.
Yahweh's not going to judge you for the drop of blood in the vein that you might happen to consume.
Well, is it raw blood or is it?
No, like cool, man. I'm talking about us here. I'm not talking about I'm talking about we cook.
this is a practice.
I mean, I don't know. The more I look at the Torah, the more now I believe we can eat meat and everything, but the more I'm just like, you got to worry about all this fat. You got to worry about all this blood. Like, if you don't have the meat, you
What's
don't
wrong
worry
with
about the fat or the blood. You're not allowed to eat the fat either.
He said something more.
No,
No, you're not allowed to eat the fat around the. Now it does say like I guess what around the lobes.
So
Yeah, it tells
what
you
is
which
considered-
it tells you which fat.
not the skin, right? Is the skin considered the fat?
Or
Or
is
well,
fat under the skin.
It's hard to differentiate because
I
sometimes
gotta
it
take
says
the fat off
it talks about the fat that's around different places,
in the organ.
but then also it talks about just fat. So
all that stuff your grandmama used to say, boy, you need to get some fat on your bones. You can't eat that no more.
You wasn't
Don't
supposed
take that fat off. You need to
you
get
wasn't supposed to be eating that
She had you sinning.
because that fat was again you was burning that fat off and offering it unto Yahweh. You was taking those fat pieces off of the meat and that was going on the altar. So those things were going unto Yahweh. The fat, the blood, the innards, the organs, and all that stuff was all going to
Offered up to
Yahweh.
But that's interesting because like I get turkey breast now, right? And I cook one like every week for lunch. The last of the lunch. I mean, to last for like sandwiches out the week, and so it always comes with like skin on it, and you can just see the fat all around it. And I always cut the fat off. I never like keep the fat on. Sometimes I be like, why are you cutting that off? That makes taste. And I'm like, I don't know, that it's just nasty and yucky and disgusting.
You mean not the lunch meat style though.
No, turkey breast. No, I can't eat that.
But Tony, he fat is very flammable.
Yeah.
Yeah, I made a mistake.
Tony burnt his
I made a
grill
mistake.
On the
up.
grill?
Yeah.
Yeah, I
He
know
burnt
what you
he
meant.
burnt his grill up. It was in flames.
What was
Trying to burn fat.
When we not this past Passover, the Passover before. When we got lamb legs, I cut the fat off of the lamb before I cooked it. Big old chunks of fat,
lamb be fat, man.
and I threw it on a grill.
like
fact.
purposely.
Yeah. This is burning it up.
And it burnt.
Man,
They use
burnt-
fire pits to do all that.
burn
you know
like
what I mean?
crazy.
Yeah, 'cause we did that.
Yeah.
And we put it in the ground and it was burning forever.
Yeah.
We're like, what?
Yeah.
My grill was basically new.
He just
Oh,
got the
man.
grill.
And so wait a minute, it's
He burned the grill
unusable
up.
now?
No, it ain't
He had to
unusable.
spray paint it.
I had to paint it because the paint on it got so hot. Started to bubble
Oh.
and the paint peeled off. It was terrible.
I mean, how much fat was it? Was it a whole?
No, it was like some legs of lamb, so it was like this much fat. Just
Burn
straight
like-
fat.
Yeah, they are.
So that stuff was burning hot and like crazy.
Crazy.
Brand new grill.
So the whole cutting off, do you think they would be brought before like the Beit Din, and then like people would like judge them for eating it, and then they get stoned? Or like how
Well,
is that?
it don't say what cutoff is. We looked at that other verse where it mentioned death and cutting off. But here it says you're being cut off from among your people, where it could be, that's what I'm saying, it could be you getting cast away. We're done with you. Because you ate blood.
Yeah, bro.
But it could be everybody's done with you. You dead. And that's how you cut off from amongst your people.
But now, you know, since you know we have Yeshua, we can repent for like say somebody don't know.
Yeah,
Yeah.
which a whole bunch of people don't know.
Don't know.
I'm gonna say, Chris, I'm done with you. I
Right.
see you eating that. I see you eating that raw meat, and I don't mess with you after that.
You got to dispel shit.
Right.
Peace.
Right.
Right?
Uh,
I think now, and again, I was looking at this where people want to take it to the place where now, because we have Yeshua, it's not as if this is null and void. It's still like we can't say that the things that Yahweh calls sin isn't sin anymore. But now, because we have Yeshua, we have the ability to not be killed because of it. We have an advocate that we can go to and say, forgive me.
And turn the other way though.
Yeah, well, yeah, it's not as if you're going to keep on doing
Yeah,
it
that's what I'm saying. Like,
and maintain your relationship with the Father. But we see a picture or a pattern of eventually, sin separates you from Yahweh and his people. So if you were somebody who let's just say that you like raw steaks. I'm like, Chris, man, this is like,
man, why you gotta keep being me though?
You
like, look,
Not good.
the scripture talks about, eating raw meat, eating blood. Like, you shouldn't be doing that. Yeah, I know, but
It makes
it's,
it juicy.
it's so juicy. You tell me eating that dry steak. My
Get more
joint-
protein.
My
That's what
joint
they say.
juicy.
Oh, that what they say?
Yeah.
Oh, it just,
Sometimes you tell me that like you get more protein if it's not all the way cooked. You cooking all the nutrients out of it if it's all the way
yeah,
done.
I did hear that.
I mean, I think cooking in general kind of does it.
Yeah,
Yeah, it does.
But the point that I'm making is that when you get to a place when you're dealing with people who just refuse to turn away from sin, then you will cause separation. Because they're not dealing with what the new covenant is in terms of the spirit of Yahweh. The new covenant causes you to turn from sin. So it's one thing to not know about the sin, but it's another thing to have knowledge of, know the sin, and then continue to do it. How can you say that you're living this life that we supposed to be living if it's a different thing when we're talking about doing something that you don't know about. But if you know about it and then you just make excuses, well, and your excuse is it tastes better. You know what I mean? That's ridiculous. You know what I mean? That spirit's not working in you. Right? And so maybe even now, maybe I'm not giving up on you. But I'm gonna talk to you about it. Maybe some conviction could work inside of you. You know what I mean? But I think with this thing that we know of as grace, where people take it to mean that you just do what you want, and those things are not relevant. Yes, you could do a thing that the scripture says in here, and you won't die immediately. But if you continue in that thing, at the end of the day, you're not going to be counted among the righteous. And I think because of the fact that we don't have a nation, the fact that we don't have these judges and these elders in Israel, we don't have a true government where everybody really just, it's kind of a free-for-all. Everybody does what's right in their own eyes. Adds to the problem, but it causes people to have a false sense of security, right? Because you don't just get struck down. Yeah. Like, you know what I mean? You don't just die instantly. You continue to live in your sin, but then when judgment day comes, and Yahweh separating the sheep from the goats, the sheep are the ones that's obedient to his word. The sheep are the ones that was walking in his spirit, that heard his voice and listened to his voice and followed him. And the goats is the ones who didn't. So, when people say, look back at these things in terms of, it's okay to eat a raw steak. It's no big deal. It's okay to eat blood sausage. That was the old covenant. We're not under the law. We're under grace. You have no idea what grace actually is. Grace is that empowerment. Pork chops. It's nothing. He made all meats clean. Yeah. Yeah, all of that. So we have to be able to look at these things and understand. Looking at this, he not only says, it's not one of those things where he just says don't eat the blood, but he's giving you a reason why. And like I said before, one of them was because the blood is used for the atonement, but then also that in the same verse he's saying that the life of the flesh is in the blood. The life of the flesh is in the blood. And I think the reason why it could be used for atonement is because it is this thing that the life is actually in. Right. So those 2 points are kind of connected to each other. The fact that it can be used as a atoning thing is because of the fact that the life is in it. If I get cut on my throat or stabbed in my guts or my leg, I'm not dying because I got a hole in me per se. I'm dying because that blood is coming out of my body. Right? The hole necessarily, if I just had a hole and ain't no blood pouring out of me, I'm fine. I could be shot and it don't hit nothing where the blood don't release out of my body and I'm good. But that's how people die. People bleed out. When you die from a gun, because when you get shot, it busts up your blood vessels and all your blood pours out. All your life comes out of it. So the life literally is in the blood. And we think about the fact that Yeshua, who gave his life as a sacrifice, he was that sacrifice for He gave his life for his people. He shed his blood. You know, when you think about the torture that he went through, you know, there was bleeding involved in it, right? His life force, his physical life force was let out. So when we connect all these things together in terms of the blood and the life, and thinking about the idea that people weren't just you know, drinking blood necessarily because it tastes good, but because of the idea of this life substance, you know, maybe it's like the fountain of youth or something. You know what I mean? There's some type of perverted thought process that's going into this idea of eating blood, and it's not just about just some random, you know, don't eat this, you know, don't eat blood because I said so, kind of a thing. It's kind of the idea, the thought process that's behind it, that even Yahweh's even recognizing in terms of this, the life being in the blood, and it being this thing that's used for these atoning principles.
Do you know why they started embalming people and removing the blood? You ever hear why?
To make the body longer. No.
The reason why they start removing the blood and embalming people is because people were coming back to life. So they removed the blood to stop people from coming back to life.
You so take the blood out.
Yeah, that
you know you're not coming back.
They would open some caskets, and there would be scratches on the caskets.
Because people wasn't always dead. Yeah.
Because you know the body, you know, is wonderfully created, and so if the blood's in the body, that person, you know, might just you know what I mean? Who knows the regeneration process that's going on while they're resting in the casket, and then they come back to life.
Yeah.
And they're like, what? You know what I mean?
That's where they got Thriller.
So that's why they start.
I'm messing with you.
That's why they start removing the blood and embalming people.
Wow, that's deep. I gotta look some research some more.
That's why I don't want to say I don't like the thought of my body. First of all,
that's fair.
But I don't want to be embalmed. I would rather just somebody put me in a shroud in the ground.
I'm just gonna burn
I
you.
don't like that. I don't like the idea of doing that. I would prefer to just be burned up and get it over with.
Can you guys hear me?
I hear you.
Oh, yeah.
But they say that's not the official way.
What you saying there? Yeah, go ahead.
I'm not sure.
You just turn your mic off. Go ahead.
This is not showing. The thing was that people were having narcolepsy, and when you're narcoleptic, they can't really tell if you're dead or alive. So people were getting buried alive, comatose, and people back then they couldn't tell that a person was only in a coma. They thought they were dead. So the narcoleptics and the comatose people were getting buried alive. They, you know, they were coming back, and that's why they were seeing the scratch marks and stuff in the coffins. So they were just making sure people.
You guaranteed to know somebody's dead if they don't got no more blood in them for sure.
Right. So you know that if you coma or you were narcoleptic, that was just something. You were just going to be dead. That's all.
Mm-hmm.
They haven't been able to tell though. Hey.
All right, so
Look, whenever Now, see, I'm not gonna be here, but
What you mean? Oh, 'cause you
I
gonna
like
be
the
dead.
thought of just getting burned up and then it's over and there's no bugs involved in the whole process.
Mom hates
Bugs.
I don't like bugs.
Where you going?
I don't like bugs. I don't like bugs. I
No,
don't
but
like
you gonna be
bugs.
dead.
You gonna be
Okay.
nutrient. You gonna be nutrients.
I
for
just
bugs.
I don't
You
like
know what I
bugs.
mean?
Back to the earth.
Back to the
Ashes
earth.
to ashes.
Circle
So-
of life. You gotta give back.
Back to dust.
Just not know, man. I don't think about those bugs. But when we went to the natural burial park, me and the kids for a field trip, and you just get put into a shroud, and they just put you in the earth. There's no
casket.
Well, you could get like a wood. It has to be all organic material,
Right, so it can,
it can also degrade or whatever in the ground, but it wouldn't be like a casket. And but they normally put people in like a shroud, like a linen type shroud, and they just dig a hole and put you in there, and they put like a bunch of like flowers and things over your grave.
That's how.
Oh, no gravestone.
If you have a gravestone, it got to be a natural stone, and they just carve into it. It's not like a
ceramic,
tombstone.
marble.
Yeah,
Oh,
it's like the kids.
I looked at
I'm just gonna have a special little part of the yard
Of the yard.
where
Why you planting it?
where everybody's gonna go whenever they.
Okay.
Garden on top. It's gonna be real.
Ain't gonna be no garden on top. It's just gonna be, just
That's
that's the spot where the kids, not the kids, but
Grandfather.
that's where the part where the little what they call cemetery.
Wait.
I seen this actually a lot when we was down south, riding through, and people got these big old parts of the land, right? And you see like this little kind of fenced off section with all of their ancestors and just, you see all just one name. And that's where granddaddy is. It's just right across the street. And the big house is over there. Right across the street is a little cemetery. Just get a plot of land like Abraham did.
Yeah.
Just get a plot of land. That's where everybody gonna be. I don't got to sit up there and ask nobody and pay no thousands of dollars for it. You know what I'm saying? You just going in the dirt.
There you go.
Wait, you can do that?
I seen them doing it. I seen it all over the
They
place.
probably
Like
could
the
back in the
government
day. They
would
probably now.
But they just grandfathered in or something?
Sister Sarah.
The places are still there.
Yeah, well, it's down south.
I probably need a death certificate.
It's America.
I know, but down south is a different animal than like up north.
It is.
Look, well, they could come get me then.
You probably Utah.
They are gonna come get you too. They gonna come get you.
You. It's
Because I'm just gonna
probably
dig a
Nothing,
hole
then
and
how
put
do you
you
get
in
a
it.
body from the hospital?
it's an ordinance probably. Like you got.
You gotta take them there to begin with.
Yeah, I'm just saying, like,
So he said you ain't taking them.
I'm just saying, say if you get sick and you happen to die. That's what I was thinking. I'm always thinking you die at the
I think you
hospital.
can.
Look,
get the body.
the whole point is that I don't want any embalming. I don't want them to take the blood outside of my body. I want to keep my blood inside my body.
Nobody's gonna
Well,
do it.
Well, the blood
Right.
the blood
When you
gonna
come back
dry
to
up
life.
because you're dead.
What if you come back to life? Underground.
Zombies.
The
Really?
blood gonna dry up because you'll be
And
dead.
you'll feel the buzz.
You won't have no blood.
Unless you come back.
Please, why you gotta do that?
Anyway,
Zombies.
I've been planning a natural burial actively right now, because I have this illness and I'm elderly. So I've been actually doing this actively, and it's there's a lot to it. It actually natural burial. We're finding find a less expensive way to go about this because I was really surprised that it's not natural burial. So yeah, you would think you just get washed and
costs more. Yeah,
Yeah,
you're right.
Natural what?
It costs more.
Yeah.
Natural birth.
Burial.
yeah, it's actually a lot more expensive. A lot more expensive It's just
That's a reverse
regular.
Company.
well,
I don't know. We're looking into what to do when to go through all that. Really, and I don't want to be cremated because I don't see anybody in Scripture being cremated. I don't see that happening to anybody. I would really like to. What I want to do, I realistically, what I really is to be wrapped. Excuse me, wrapped in a wrapped.
Shroud.
Yeah, wrapped in a shroud and put in a cave like everybody in the Scripture. I want to be like this. I want to be in a cave and put a stone in.
Is it gonna be a sealed one? How we gonna seal it? How we gonna seal the cave?
She said put a stone in front of it.
That's a big stone. We're gonna have to rent a
It does not have
rent some things called yeah. I want to find an operator.
Put me on a board and slide me into a small cave. As long as I can fit in there.
She said you may have to figure this whole thing out for you.
I know. I don't even know where they got caves at.
What they say, you gotta write a
Lowell Cabins. We gotta go down Lowell Cabins.
If it's up to me, I'm checking the cheapest box.
Here, let's go over to John real quick before we be done.
Where we at, John?
Chapter 5.
John 5.
1 through 21.
Starting with 1.
Yeah, 1 through 21.
My history.
I'm not even there yet. One second. Wrong. Stop putting it wrong.
Alright, wash my hands again.
What did you say, first John?
Regular John, chapter 5.
Make sure you don't fall forward.
Try and get out. Okay. I'm gonna put this up here. John 5. Okay. You gonna read, Hiskey?
Yeah, I'll read.
I just read loud.
After this, there was a feast of the Jews, and Yeshua went up to Jerusalem. Now there is at Jerusalem by the sheep market at a pool, which is called in the Hebrew tongue Bethesda, having 5 porches. In these lay a great multitude of impotent folk, of blind, halt, withered, waiting for the moving of the water. For an angel went down at a certain season into the pool and troubled the water. Whosoever then first, after the troubling of the water, stepped in was made whole of whatsoever disease he had. And a certain man was there, which had an infirmity 30 and 80 years. When Yeshua saw him lie, and knew that he had been now a long time in that case, he said unto him, Wilt thou be made whole? The impotent man answered him, Sir, I have no man, when the water is troubled, to put me into the pool. But while I coming, another steppeth down before me. Yeshua said unto him, Rise, take up thy bed and walk. And immediately the man was made whole, and took up his bed and walked. And on the same day was the Sabbath. The Jews therefore said unto him that was cured, It is the Sabbath day. It is not lawful for thee to carry thy bed. He answered them, he answered them, He that made me whole, the same said unto me, Take up thy bed and walk. Then asked they him, What man is that which said unto thee, Take up thy bed and walk? And he that was healed wist not who it was, for Yeshua had conveyed himself away, a multitude being in that place. Afterward, Yeshua findeth him in the temple, and said unto him, Behold, thou art made whole. Sin no more, lest a worse thing come unto thee. The man departed and told the Jews that it was Yeshua, and which had made him whole. And therefore did the Jews persecute Yeshua, and sought to slay him, because he had done these things on the Sabbath day. But Yeshua answered them, My Father worketh hitherto, and I work. Therefore the Jews sought the more to kill him, because he not only had broken the Sabbath, but also that God was his Father, making himself equal with God. Then answered Yeshua and said unto them, Verily, verily, I say unto you, the Son can do nothing to himself, but what he seeth the Father do. For what things soever he doeth, these also doeth the Son likewise. For the Father loveth the Son, and sheweth him all things that himself doeth, and he will shew him greater works than these, that ye may marvel. For as the Father raiseth up the dead, and quickeneth them, even so the Son quickeneth whom he will. For the Father judgeth no man, but hath committed all judgment unto the Son.
I think that's good. You're supposed to read the 20.
Oh, I didn't know.
Very good. Okay, so we go back to this. Okay, so when we look at this here, you see a couple things just to look at. When we look at the fact that, we look at Yeshua, first of all, if he, he came in the likeness of sinful flesh, the Bible says. He came in the likeness of sinful flesh, yet was without sin. If we look at all of the types, we look at the sacrifice that was offered, that was brought as an offering, it was a blameless offering without spot, without blemish. Yeshua, although he was a man, he was blameless. He walked without sin. So, when we look at these things and these people are saying that Yeshua did, if he broke the Sabbath, if he broke the Sabbath, he obviously would have been. He wouldn't been able to have been blameless. He would actually be with sin if he actually did break the Sabbath. So we can't say that Yeshua broke the Sabbath. What Yeshua broke.
But that's what people say.
Well, yeah, but it doesn't make any sense for him to say
Well,
that.
I mean,
Because of the fact that if Yeshua did indeed break the Sabbath, then he can't be Messiah. He nullifies himself. He disqualifies himself if he sinned. So we can't say that he sinned. Even though people do, yes, indeed, say it.
I'm saying mainstream Christian people say that.
Right. So what I'm saying is that the reason why they're wrong is because if he did sin, then he nullifies himself. If he can't be the Messiah. To say that he's the Lord of the Sabbath is one of the things that they might say. He's the Lord of the Sabbath, so he's able to break it because he's the Lord of it. It doesn't make any sense because if he breaks it, then he causes himself to no longer be eligible to even be the Messiah.
Right. That sacrifice without blemish.
Yeah, he's not that anymore once he does that.
And he's causing somebody else to sin if he did.
Right.
First of all, he healed, which he shouldn't have been doing on Shabbat, according to the Pharisees.
He did all kinds of stuff. He healed. He told that
guy
guy
to
pick up his thing
and go
and carry it somewhere.
I mean, that don't make no sense to me being the same, like picking up your stuff. Like, you can't pick up your Bible.
Yeah, you wouldn't do that. You wouldn't carry, according to the oral law, right? You can't take something outside of. As soon as I carry something outside of my house, that's work. So if I could maybe go to the temple, I can't carry nothing there because that would be work. And I can't even live that far away from it because walking for too long is work.
Yeah, and that's why I believe Yeshua was saying that we're putting things on man that it's not. They don't even keep it. You don't even meet that measure. How you going to make other people try to, and that's what.
Well, what they would do, they would have like a string or something. They would tie it because if it was connected, if the buildings was connected, then they'd be able to take stuff out. So it became very scientific. We got to make the community all be connected together in order so that we can carry. I think they do that, right? So they got to have it so that if all the buildings are connected, then that kind of makes it like if I leave my house, I'm not really leaving my house. You see how it kind of gets into the mentality. So you can't play games. Yeah. So you can't carry your Bible to the temple because you're carrying something. Meanwhile, Yeshua is saying,
and they ain't even got no temple.
And then so Yeshua is saying, take up your bed and walk. You know what I mean? It's like we can't take our Bible out of the house.
Well, so obviously
they didn't have Bibles.
Well, whatever. Yeah, they didn't have. They went to the temple and read the Torah there.
They got something wrong in that Yeshua.
Yeah, but we could come to that conclusion. But the majority of people that read this Bible ain't coming to that same conclusion. They looking at it and saying, "Oh, see right there, he broke the Sabbath, so therefore I can do it." Meanwhile, that's not what's going on.
It's them trying to make an excuse to break the Shabbat.
But what we have to realize is that, again, if you say that, you disqualify him because now you even cause the New Testament to be a contradiction because Paul said that he was without sin. So if you saying that this was a sin right here, then you making Paul a liar too.
Right.
The one who you sit up there and make all your doctrines based on him.
Right.
Because Paul is their big dude that they follow.
Yeah, I mean, he's a significant guy, Paul. But all I'm saying is that you make him a liar whenever you say that this is saying that he sinned. We have to be able to understand that there is this thing that is the oral law, which Yeshua speaks about in other places where he talks about the fact that you make commandments of men and put commandments of men higher than the commandments of Elohim. You're treating these things as if you're on a higher level than the things that Yahweh actually said. When you made these things up to protect from doing the commandments, but they're not the commandments. So
how does he deal with people coming up against him?
Who, Yeshua?
Yeah.
What we just seen right here.
Does he defend himself?
No, always. Sometimes he don't deal with them. Sometimes he just disappears. Sometimes, he just disappears. Like, because he's sitting up here saying these things. But the thing about it is that we have to understand, Yeshua sit up here and says these things, and they get mad at him. They get mad. Like when we look 17, but Yeshua answered them, my Father works hitherto, and I work. Therefore, the Jews sought the more to kill him, because he not only had broken the Sabbath, but said also that Elohim was his father, making himself equal with Elohim. Now, Yeshua is saying things that he knows whenever he say this thing, what they're going to get from it.
They're going to cause controversy.
He's telling them, and they're coming to the conclusion that he wants them to come to. Because he is indeed Elohim. He's equal with Elohim. He is that. But he can't die right here. He got more stuff to do. So he gotta do his thing. But he didn't hold his tongue. He didn't make it a secret. He said what he had to say. And they took it how he wanted for them to take it. But he just didn't let them get him right there because it wasn't his time. But I think that the one thing that I see when I see this is, people talk about, get into the idea of Yeshua being Elohim. And to me, I feel like it's something that Yeshua actually taught. Yeshua actually did indeed teach that he was Elohim. And this is an example. He said what he said, not just some random speech that he's saying. But he said what he said, knowing what they was going to get from it. And I think a big part in understanding who Yeshua is accepting the fact that he is indeed Elohim. And he wanted you to know it.
And that's something that I think amongst the Hebrews, people are kind of tying that with Christianity, mainstream Christianity. It's kind of interesting. So they look at this and then they kind of see the opposite of this story. They say, oh, he broke the Sabbath. And
you look at the one story and get two sides of the spectrum who look at this exact same thing. Yeah. Where you got the ones who
they agree with the Pharisees. They agree with the Pharisees that he broke the Sabbath. So they're actually agreeing with the enemies.
Now, who is this? The Christians or the
I'm saying the Christians agree with the Pharisees.
But not in the negative side. So they're not throwing a stone at Yeshua. They're saying that Yeshua is throwing a stone at the Sabbath.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's how they look at it.
Yeah.
And then he goes on and he says that he's the son of Elohim. Well, if he's the son of Elohim, then he wouldn't be breaking the Sabbath anyway.
Right.
So they'll accept that he's the son of Elohim and he's desecrating the Shabbat. which are two things that don't go together. But I'm saying that the Hebrew people, the Hebrews that I know at least, a lot are, they say that Yeshua was just a man. He was just a human being. And I guess he got promoted into some excellency.
I mean, I guess you could look at this and say that, well, he didn't say that. That's what they said about him.
Yeah, that's what they said about him. That's what.
But I'm saying that they're saying that about him
because he said it.
Because he said what he said, and he knew what they was going to think about what he said. And that could just be a whole bunch of mumbo jumbo.
I mean, yeah, but I mean, all the parables that Yeshua made, you know, like the vineyard where he sent his basically his servants, and they killed the servants. You know, that's the apostles and the prophets, and then he sent even his son, and then they killed his son. You know what I mean? That's Yeshua.
Mm-hmm.
He gave the parables of everything, like. You know, so they know what they say is what. I mean, he says it himself in many different ways and formats.
Yeah, yeah.
And they all say the same thing. That him and the Father are one.
To me, a human can't do anything for me. Like, as far as my relationship with Yahweh.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like, and I think what happens is
we just there to point each other in a certain direction.
Yeah.
But I can't take you there.
Yeah.
I could just say it's over there. Go over there.
Yeah,
or we going this way. Come with me. Like
right. And once you say that, if you go off course, they can't follow you.
No.
You know what I mean? Because
Paul said, follow me as I follow Yeshua.
Exactly. And if he ain't following Yeshua, guess what?
You ain't following.
You ain't following Paul no more.
Right.
But what I see is that what happens with people who deny the deity is they eventually say, why do they need Yeshua? They could just do it themselves. You know what I mean? Like, isn't that what's happening in some of the people in your class even? Like, it just becomes this whole thing because if he's a human being, then that means if I do the Torah a certain kind of way, I'm actually able to do the same thing he did. So I just got to keep the Torah.
Yeah.
I'll be fine.
That's just like, man.
I can't say that it's full-fledged.
I mean,
people doing that, but you see all of the signs,
the progression
of it, and it begins with dealing with the deity of Yeshua.
Because if he's just a man, then that means that I can actually attain the same thing that he did.
And that's all he's saying anyway. Just do what I did. You know what I mean? That's all he's saying anyway. Do what I did. Oh, I could just do what he did, and then I'm good.
I don't need him.
Well,
that's what I've seen. People, and then they become.
People say that.
Torah
get to that point. I'm like, first of all, we don't got a land. We don't got a temple. Ain't no priest. So how you can't be on that level? Even to have that mindset to be like, I'm gonna just do it anyway.
Yeah.
It ain't what you sacrificing.
I mean, we just talked about sacrifice. You can't do it.
You
can't do it here.
About sacrifice.
You can't do it here.
Ain't nobody doing that.
You can't do it
here. Over here,
it's a problem. I mean, it's a problem.
Right. The only thing people need to be worried about is basically crying out for repentance and crying out for his return. That's it.
It says sin and sinning no more. What does it say? It says here, behold, you have become well. Do not sin anymore, so that nothing worse may befall you.
Yeah. So it don't even make sense to talk about Yeshua talking to this person, talking to them to go and sin no more. Mm-hmm. But while he's doing it, he's causing them to sin.
What's really funny is that, like,
right?
It's just funny to me. That just doesn't make any sense.
Well, I was thinking about it.
Just go ahead and do whatever. Sin no more while you carry your pallet and break the Sabbath.
Which is a sin.
Right. So I went back to Exodus where it talked about the, Shabbat and whatnot, looking at the words. And when it's talking about, and from what I'm seeing, what did I look up? 20 and Exodus 20 and 9.
20 verse 9.
20 verse 9. We're talking about labor. Hold on, I got a couple. It's, hold on, before we go there, Leviticus 23 and which one is it? 23 verse 3. And where it has, we shall, 6 days shall you work. Only where you go down to where it says you shall do no work. So that word there, Malika, it says occupation, work, business, occupation, property. So I'm guessing, okay, so property, that he was taking his own, like it says workmanship, service, public business, political or religious. For it to be justified, because I'm thinking at some point up in history, for those men to use certain things as breaking the Shabbat, they was misinterpreting something.
Yeah, well, they was taking it into when things become strenuous, when you're like strenuously doing something.
Mm-hmm.
Or,
like that. Not resting.
Yeah, and also creating too.
Yeah.
Because Yahweh created in 6 days. He created, right? So you wouldn't like. I think even writing, where it's not strenuous to write.
Yeah.
But you're creating something.
Mm.
But you're right. When you look at this, it's dealing with, if I have a job, I'm not going to do my job all the time, or I got to go out here and plow these fields.
Right.
I'm not going to be plowing the fields on Shabbat. Business, industrious occupation, use, manner, or workmanship. Right. So this melacha is dealing with, work. So yeah. So you can't really classify that, what Yeshua said for this guy to do is, he's sitting there, it's like probably like a little roll-up little cot thing, which probably looked like a sleeping bag or something. You know what I mean? That he was able to roll up and carry.
Right.
It wasn't like a bed, like a twin-size bed that he was carrying.
Yeah.
Like a little mat, like a little something that he had.
Maybe like a blanket.
Yeah. Like a little quilt or something that he rolls up and carried it down the street. And that was like, because the idea is that you can't be carrying stuff. Right? So it didn't matter how small it was something that he was carrying. Oh, he's guilty. Yeah. Yeah.
To do labor. Okay.
So if I see that, so I'm just saying, if I see that labor is like just something that's laborious, where it's something that's that's where there's kind of like rigor or something involved in it, that's work. And then I could just go on and on with that. Where they say, ripping stuff, toilet papers. Ripping toilet papers.
I mean, some people say even going to the bathroom. Like they say, like don't shower. Like might supposed to go to the bathroom.
I don't think you can help but have to go.
I'm just saying.
But they do have just Shabbat toilet paper, which is probably more like Kleenex because there's no ripping involved.
Oh, come on.
Lights and stuff might be on a timer.
Man.
He said go do it.
Man.
Hey.
Man.
He said lights on the timer. You don't got to touch the light switch.
Yeah, I seen a documentary like way back in the day about the Jews keeping the Shabbat and all the stuff they were inventing so that people didn't have to do all of these things on the Shabbat.
We got Sabbath mode on our stove. We got like a digital stove.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm sitting there trying to set the time on the thing, and there's like Sabbath mode on it where you can set it to come on.
So that time of the week that we.
Yeah, you can just set it to come on. Because before you would just have this, you would just have it on already. Like on Friday, you turn your stove and stuff on, just let it be on. So then you wouldn't have to start it.
Yeah.
So
It could just be on.
So basically, what they done did is they then took the Sabbath day and turned the stuff you buy to do on the Sabbath day into a business. So now they inventing all of these stuff you buy to, stop you from working on the Sabbath.
Well, I don't know if they made it into a business or somebody capitalized on the idea, but I think, well, I guess probably all of it's going on. All of it's going on, people. You know what I mean? But that's what we do. But I'm just saying it's based on these people making these oral commands and people building fences around. The Torah itself is a fence. The Torah itself is borders. And then so we come up with things to keep us from the intention of it. The intention of it is fine. If I want to say that if you do X, Y, Z, it'll absolutely keep you from doing A, B, C. There's nothing wrong with that thought process. There's nothing wrong with me saying if I sit up here and make these laws, if I do them, there's no way I'm going to break the Torah because these things is even more strenuous. If I do these things, there's no way I'm going to break the Torah.
Right.
The idea of it is fine. But as soon now, if I'm sitting up here and I'm judging you and condemning you because you're breaking these things, that's not Torah. It's just things that's going to keep you from breaking Torah. Then there's a problem there. If I'm gonna sit up here and say you're condemned because you ripped that toilet paper, I seen you rip it. I left the Sabbath toilet paper downstairs, and you went upstairs. I know you sinned, right? That's crazy.
Now let's get crazy. Let's get real crazy.
Well, I thought that was pretty crazy.
That is crazy. But children, holding that boy is laborious, man.
It can be laborious.
They gotta whether be feeding them, changing them. What was they saying about that? They get a pass.
It don't make
that's
no sense. Right, that's what I'm saying. Don't make no sense. Like I was talking with the people in Buffalo one day, and they were talking about keeping the Sabbath, and they were talking about something. I was like, well, a lot of things is misinterpreted, and I was like, like for instance, like it says, don't light a fire. But in the wintertime, we turn that thermostat and that fire lights. I said, so obviously, God's talking about like gathering wood, chopping up wood, and making the fire. But now, with a turn of a button, you make fire. So is God saying that you can't heat your house on the Sabbath and it's 0 degrees outside?
I think to me, when I look at the idea of kindling a fire, it's a bit different now than it was then. Because I tried to start a fire from scratch before, and that's some work.
That's some work.
Yeah,
that is some work.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
I was
That
was some work.
That was some work.
That's some work doing that.
All day affair.
Yeah.
I mean, if I got stuff to...
Yeah, exactly. That is some work. That is some work.
It must work with lighter fluid.
Yeah. That's some work right there.
Right.
Yeah.
But to do this,
Right. Right.
that's not
That's not right. And I don't think there was a problem with having a fire. I think it was, working to get the fire. So, I mean, and when it was cold out there, they might have just let the fire burn all through the next day.
Yeah.
Do you think they went without a fire?
They didn't go without the fire. They just didn't start the fire.
So it wasn't work to put another piece of wood on the fire.
Right. Maybe they had the wood. Exactly.
Well, you got to put the wood on the fire.
Yeah,
You gotta put the wood on the fire.
Keep it going.
But I don't think that was the sin. The sin was chopping the wood.
Getting things
You know what I
started.
mean?
Yeah,
You had to
started.
prepare for it in advance.
Right.
Make preparation.
Right.
But we I think that we are stricter than most people. We're like,
who's we?
you and me.
I just feel like I'm regular.
You feel like you're regular.
No, I know some strict people. I think
You think we're well, like when we go to the feast and stuff
I mean, you see other people who do things different, but I'm not.
Well, it's different. Like,
but I'm not gonna say that
they
I'm
actually
strict
started
and
a
then
fire this year at the feast on the Shabbat.
Yeah, I'm just saying that I'm not saying that I'm strict.
Like you
but
wouldn't
say
grill
that there are
outside
people.
on a Shabbat.
I'm saying that there are people that do things that the comparing me to them is not dealing with my strictness. I would say it's dealing with them just not doing what it seems like the Bible is saying for you to do. I don't think I'm strict. I think I'm just regular. I think I just do what it says.
Yeah.
What it says do. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, they don't.
But
They don't heat stuff up at all. Like I try to cook before the Sabbath.
Yeah.
I cook before the Sabbath because I don't want to create on the Shabbat. So that's why I cook before. But I warm it up.
That's what I do. I warm up my food.
So yeah, there are people who only eat cold food on the Shabbat. That is true.
Yeah.
And I know people who are like that.
so those people I would say is
And
more strict than I
there's
am.
people who keep the stove on all day.
Those people are more strict.
that's
So that's what I mean. I'm just regular.
And
I'm not strict.
I'll never forget.
I'm regular.
It was at the Feast of Tabernacles, and I was the last person in the kitchen at night. I turned off I was like, why are all the ovens and stoves on? Like we're about to go to bed. Turn them all off. In the morning, I come down. There's a big catastrophe, and I'm like, what just happened? What's going on? And it's like somebody turned off the stove, and then I was like, oh, that was me. And they was like, what are we gonna do? Like they literally didn't know what they was gonna do. And then I was like, well.
On me.
I said, well, since it would be a sin.
Close your eyes.
He said, close your eyes.
Pretend like this isn't happening.
Turn your head.
I said, because it would be a sin for you to turn the stove on, I will do it because I'm going to turn it off. So they literally watched me do it. They probably thought I was this unrepentant sinner. Because I turned the stoves back on.
they watched you.
They watched me. They sat there and watched it. It was a big situation. It was like nobody knew what they was gonna do in the kitchen. And I come in and I'm like, what's going on? It's like somebody turned off the stove and the ovens. And I was like, oh, that was me, Sorry. I didn't know. We should have had a conversation about this before the Sabbath so I could know that you got,
But there was no work. You just turn the switch.
It was actually buttons because it was electric stoves. So it was like you just like not even like mine when you got to turn. You just press the button for like the settings.
But it's the thought of kindling the fire.
Yeah.
I know. Yeah, because we had an issue with that.
I don't know. I guess they don't drive to their. They have to drive.
We
I don't know
use
what
the microwave.
You
We
can't
want to
drive.
do. Most of the times, actually, like my first few years, and in truth, I was just fast.
You
I would
wouldn't
just-
eat the whole day.
I wouldn't eat unless there's fruit there, or I would just have water, or most part, I would just fast, usually from Friday sunset to Saturday sunset for years.
See, and then like for us, or for me, I should say, Shabbat's a feast. That's why we have a feast every week. If we don't eat any other time during the week, we eat on Shabbat.
Make sure you eat dinner.
Make sure we eat, yeah.
I spent a Sabbath with a Jewish family. And it's my wife's sister's husband. They invited me one time, and I was real reluctant to go. You know what I mean? I'm like, oh, man, these heathens. You know what I'm saying? No, I wasn't like that, but I was reluctant to go. But I was like, let me go and see what they do, right? So I went, and they had everything prepared already, and so after we ate, then their maid was cleaning up, and you know, the
They were
men going in. Yeah, they have a maid. Her name was Rosa, and you know,
Was
they
she
had
black?
a maid. No, she was Rosa.
Well, I do
Mexican.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm just double checking. Almost same difference.
Right. And so basically, they had her cleaning up, and I'm like,
So she's a Sabbath goy.
don't you realize that's breaking the Sabbath when your servant
Wow.
is cleaning it up? Like, oh, yeah, I'm clean because, you know, but my servant, yes, thank you. Get that for me.
I can really have servants.
I know, right?
I mean.
And they say all those within thy gates.
Yeah.
All the stranger among you.
But if you're a Gentile, I guess.
Well, to them, see, they ain't following. They
just let people.
That was the last time they invited me.
I mean, even the animals. Even
I
the
said
animals
I was gonna come, but I came here. It was for tabernacles, and they were waiting for me. I was like, let me turn my ringer off. I was like, I ain't spending tabernacles over there. But that was an issue though. You know, that came out later. You know, she's like, yeah. You know, we just had recently talked about this. You like the tabernacles, you know, I was waiting over there for you and you just didn't show up. I was like,
I mean, I guess there's many examples of how, you know, you have people on both sides, whether you're doing the oral command and you're not doing the written, what the actual says, or people who are saying that they're keeping the commands, but kind of the degree upon which they're doing it is not even to the degree that the scripture calls for.
Where are the oral commands? Like, is it written somewhere?
Well, they became written over time.
Is that
but when you look at like what the Pharisees were speaking about, was dealing with the oral commands, which at the time of Yeshua, I don't believe it was written.
And now
they were just oral commands. So now when you look at the Talmudic writings, what you have is the oral commands, and then there's also more commentary on the oral commands. That's like so the Talmud is a mixture of what they were traditionally doing with the oral commands, and then also things that was added after they had like say for instance, if the oral commands, I'm just making this up, say there was like 10 known oral commands. When they wrote it down, now there's like 30.
And they discuss it too in there.
Yeah, so
it's like a discussion back and forth.
Yeah.
Like for example, like if you break someone's thing, or if you steal or something, it'll be like, well, so and so says this about this thing, and then such and such says this about this thing, and you know what I mean? It's kind of like a back and forth type of thing.
So when we look at this in particular in John chapter 5, where they're saying that Yeshua is sinning, that he's breaking the Sabbath, what he's actually doing is going against what the oral law is. So, you know, you see people who look at the Talmudic writings and say, well, you know, that's rubbish. Yeah, that's that European.
Yeah, it is the European.
Well, this is what I'm saying, is that what that is what we're just looking at right here. And even to say that it's you can't even say that. You can't say that because this predates the European Jews.
Right.
It predates it. So there was that before the European Jews came into existence.
Right.
Even the stuff, like I said, even the stuff that was added is before the European Jews. The problem with it is when you treat it like the Pharisees are treating it here, and they're condemning Yeshua for breaking something that's not the commandments.
So that's what I was saying. Like over time, they either interpret something or adding something that
It became the Jewish.
I mean, when you look at it, it's totally clean. When you look at it, it's commentary on the scriptures. And even looking at it, it's not even concrete. Because you have different ones, like Joseph was saying, you have different ones saying, well, Joe says this about it. And then Fred says this about it. And then what's the name agrees with Joe. And then so-and-so agrees with Fred. You know what I mean? So at the end of the day, when you look at it, I look at it all the time, but I won't sit up here and treat it as if it's higher than Torah, because it's not. It can give you but what it does do is give you it gives you the ability to look at what's going on here and know what's going on, because they're basing their judgments and things that they're doing on this thing that you could sit up there and look at now. And you can look at, you can look at also things, you can look at it and put Yeshua in a particular category in terms of the teachings.
They say he's of the house of Hillel in his thought process.
Which is one of the the rabbis that their rulings were codified in these books. You know what I mean? So to me, I feel like it's to look at it and you can gain things from it. But once you start, when you put that, when you do the same thing Yeshua talks against, is putting the commandments of men above the commandments of Yahweh, or you're not even thinking about what Yahweh's commands are, and you're only dealing with these things. That's where it becomes a problem.
Okay, so in Colossians 2:14, it talks about ordinances, right? It says, and you being 13 says, and you being dead in your sins and the uncircumcision of your flesh, hath he quickened together with him, having forgiven you all trespasses, blotting out the handwritten of ordinances that was against us, which was contrary to us, and took it out of the way, nailing it to his cross. Now, here in my notes, it says law observances were abolished. So even they are writing the wrong thing here. See, this blotting out of the handwriting of ordinances. The ordinances was talking about those laws that they were attaching to the laws. So Paul here is not talking about blotting out the law. He's talking about blotting out the ordinances that were created by man. And see, a lot of Christians go to the scripture and say, see here, the law was done away with. And even here, my footnote, it says law observances were abolished. Mm-hmm. And that's not what Paul's talking about here. He's talking about the Pharisaical oral laws that were attached to the law.
Well, I wouldn't actually say that, because when you look at and the reason why I wouldn't say it is because of the key word that I look at when it says blotting out the handwriting of ordinance that was against us, which was contrary to us, and took it out of the way, nailing it to us to the cross. We kind of talked about it when we was looking at the thing about the blood. The thing that's contrary to you, or the thing that's against you, is the fact that if you sin, you're dead. You're gonna be killed. There's no leeway. That, I would say, is what this is talking about in terms of the thing that was against you. Something that's keeping me in the commandments is not against me, really. Maybe it's against my flesh.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. It's not against, because the law is not against us.
No, but I'm saying even the oral law is not against you. The oral law is not against you. It's keeping you from it's keeping you. It's a fence outside of a fence. It's keeping you from. Yeshua's not dealing with the oral law.
Well, let me explain.
He's not nailing that to the. It don't matter if he nails the oral law to the cross.
Well, let me explain to you. So Paul is talking to Gentiles at this point, right?
Yeah.
And so there was an oral law against the Gentiles, against the Israelites even coming to the Gentiles, right? There was an oral law that forbid Israel from having any dealing with Gentiles, correct?
Yeah.
Right. And so that's what Paul's talking about. He's talking about those oral laws that were against.
But the reason why, but even more so, the reason why you wouldn't say that is because when you keep on going down with 16 and 17 is another reason why you wouldn't say that, and because it's dealing with, just look at it. Let no man therefore judge you in meat and in drink, or in respect to holy days, or new moon, or the Sabbath days, which those things are a shadow of things to come, or the substance of these things, the substance of meat and drink and holy days and new moons and Sabbath days, the substance of those things are Messiah. So in other words, he's saying that the law is teaching you about, so you can't have people. I can't judge you for doing the things that are of the law, because those things are, the substance of those things are what we have here in this particular situation is not all the way like what we see in the other places where you have people who are saying don't do the commandments. But here it's almost as if it's the opposite, as if there's people who are saying that, you know, these, like, I'm judging you because you're doing, like, I'm saying you had two things going on. You had people who were going and saying you need to be doing it. You need to be doing this and that and the other thing. But we can't say that that's going on here, because he's saying don't judge me in it. Don't judge me in keeping the Sabbath. So I can't judge you in keeping the Sabbath if you're somebody who's not even keeping the Sabbath to begin with.
Well, see, that's what I'm saying. Here is actually, Paul is saying, don't let no man judge you on how you keep the Sabbath. Meaning that.
What version you got? That's the version that you said?
It says, let no man therefore judge you in meat or in drink or in respect of an holy day, or of the new moon, or of the Sabbath day. So basically, yeah, but that's what the Pharisees were doing to Yeshua, right? They were judging him how he kept the Sabbath day.
Well, he was just straight breaking it, though.
Well, that's what according to the ordinances. That's what I'm saying. It's these ordinances which Yeshua come to do away with.
No. It doesn't make sense to say that Yeshua did away with the ordinances, and those ordinances are the oral law, because the oral law is not against. You can't say that the oral law is against you, because it's kind of like a defense mechanism. It's keeping you from doing something that you shouldn't be doing. Like, you shouldn't be breaking this.
But their oral law actually was against them, and that's why they sought to kill the Messiah, is because he was breaking their.
But if you say first of all that these people aren't Israelites to begin with, if you say that these are Gentile peoples, the oral law don't got nothing to do with them.
Well, it does.
And if I'm a Pharisee, I'm not trying to get you to do the oral law either.
No, I know, but it did have something to do with them, because they were basically outcast forever. There was, as far as the Pharisees and the people who created these oral laws concerned, there was no redemption for the Gentiles. That was the whole thing. That was Paul's whole thing to the Gentiles, is because basically the Gentile, even Peter, when the
okay, don't you have to originally be in it? Be into something?
No, you don't have to be in something to be out of something.
Stop.
Like
Outcast. Being cast, you were cast out.
no, not cast out, not meaning that way, meaning that there was no way for them to come in. As far as the religious order of that day believed, there was no way for a Gentile to be included. And even to this day, they're still preaching that, you know, like, oh, they're the devil and all of this stuff, right? So basically, Paul is saying that these ordinances that were created when they were allowed to go back into the land, they made these ordinances that they would basically cut all ties with Gentiles, and there was going to be no contact with them because of them leading Israel astray. And so those ordinances became a way for Israel to separate itself from Gentiles, and Gentiles never being able to come into the fold. And Paul is saying, like, those ordinances were blotted out with Yeshua, because those oral laws were against them, and it was against Israel itself. And that's why they sought to kill Yeshua, because in their eyes, he was breaking the Sabbath. But Yeshua's like, I'm not breaking the Sabbath.
I don't see it that way.
You don't see it that way?
I don't see it that way. I mean, I hear what you're saying, but when I look at that, I look at this as a kind of a more broader thing, and not dealing with just the idea of, like I'm saying, this is true for whoever looks at this.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just true for some Gentile person who doesn't have any connection to Israel. This is true for this statement, the fact that Yeshua blotted out the handwriting. When you talk about the handwriting of the ordinances, what it's actually talking about is the judgment, is the penalty, is the thing that happens. So we say if you get a speeding ticket, the handwriting of the ordinance would not necessarily be the fact that if you was going 70 miles an hour in a 35-mile-an-hour zone. It's the $100 that you got to pay.
Yeah.
It's the money that you got to pay as a result of it. It's not necessarily dealing with what you did, but it's dealing with the judgment that's coming along with it. And that's the only thing that we could say that Yeshua even put on, that he even nailed to the stake, to torture stake. He died so that we can live, so we don't receive that judgment that we receive as a result of sin. That's what he did. I mean, we could put other things on what he did, but on a blanket statement, what he did was he removed the fact that if I sin today, I don't have to die. The law of sin and death. If you sin, you're done. If you eat blood, you're out of here. I might kill you, but I might just put you away and forget that you're alive. So, I mean, I hear what you're saying, but I'm just saying I don't believe that that's what this is. But I could be wrong.
One day we'll look up that word ordinance to see what it says.
Yeah. Okay, so all that being said, just closing it down, we want to be able to think about all of these things, and we think about the fact that Yahweh's commands, and trying to see where they fit into our everyday life today, and be able to not just kind of dismiss these commands because of the fact that we have the spirit inside of us, and because of the fact that we do have an advocate, we can't allow that to cause us to remain in sin, right? It should cause us to turn from sin and to strive to do what's right, all the time, and recognize when we're not doing right and make those adjustments in our life and live righteous and live like Yeshua said to the man that he healed at the pool and said, "Go and sin no more." We want to be like that man and go throughout our life and separated from sin. Okay, so saying all that, I think that we are going to shut it down for right now. Sister Sarah, did you have something you wanted to add?
No, is it my speaker?
Okay, I thought that you had something. Okay, all right then. So we are going to stop this for now. Okay.